Why NCIS really needs a new director right now. After the shocking death of Director Vance, NCIS is at a crossroads. This moment isn't just about filling a vacancy. It's about restoring balance to an agency that suddenly feels unmoored. For years, Vance was more than a leader. He was the stabilizing force behind the scenes, the one who navigated political minefields, shielded the team from interference, and ensured agents could focus on the cases that mattered most. With him gone, that equilibrium has vanished, and episode 14 of season 23 makes it painfully clear NCIS cannot function like this for long. One of the first clues that the show is exploring a major shift is the mention of multiple interim directors. This detail might seem minor at first, but it's a significant narrative signal. It shows that the agency lacks clear direction and highlights the immense pressure on whoever steps into this permanent role. The new director has to balance leadership, politics, and high-stakes decision-making, qualities that are extremely rare even among seasoned agents. And this is precisely where Timothy McGee starts to emerge as a standout candidate. From a storytelling perspective, McGee isn't just a convenient choice, he's the most logical one. He has spent over 2 decades inside NCIS, learning the ins and outs of the agency. He understands the demands of fieldwork, but equally, he understands the bureaucracy and structure that keep the organization running smoothly. That dual knowledge is rare and invaluable. On top of that, McGee was trained under Gibbs, which shaped the way he approaches leadership, problem-solving, and teamwork. Over the years, the writers have carefully built him into someone capable of greater responsibility, even if the show has never fully pushed him into that role until now. Interestingly, Vance himself seemed to recognize McGee's potential. In his final reflections before his death, there's a clear sense that McGee possesses the natural qualities needed for leadership, not because he seeks authority, but because it comes naturally to him. That setup isn't accidental. It's intentional foreshadowing, planting the seeds for McGee's eventual rise while also emphasizing the cost and complexity of the transition. But this is where things get complicated. If McGee becomes director, he cannot stay with the team in the same way. Many fans overlook this fact, but the director role isn't hands-on like being part of the Major Case Response Team, MCRT. It's strategic, administrative, and often requires being removed from day-to-day field work. Vance only personally handled cases in exceptional circumstances, and McGee would have to follow the same approach. This isn't simply a promotion, it's a complete transformation of his role, identity, and presence within the show. The familiar face that fans love in the field would now exist largely behind the scenes, making critical decisions rather than kicking down doors or chasing criminals. This dynamic creates a fundamental trade-off. You gain a strong, capable leader at the top, but the team loses a core member whose presence has defined it for years. This is why so many viewers immediately think of Gibbs when discussing the director position. Anytime something significant happens in NCIS, Gibbs is the first name fans call. However, bringing him back as director doesn't align with the narrative direction. Gibbs already had his ending. He chose to leave NCIS, giving his character closure. Bringing him back now, especially for a role that doesn't suit his strengths, would feel forced and contrary to the story's natural progression. The truth is that Gibbs was never designed to be a director. He thrives in the field, operating outside the system when necessary. The director role, by contrast, is about structure, oversight, and navigating pressure from above. It requires managing personnel, politics, and decisions that can affect the agency at a systemic level. That was Vance's strength, and it's why replacing him is far more complex than simply bringing back a familiar face. So when we examine everything, this isn't really a question of McGee versus Gibbs. It's about the future trajectory of NCIS. The show is transitioning into a new phase, and McGee represents that future. But this evolution comes with a cost. Taking on Vance's position means leaving behind the team that has defined him for so long. And that is the tension the show is now exploring. Not just who will replace Vance, but what that choice takes away in the process. What happens after McGee becomes director? After Vance's death, NCIS is heading into uncharted territory, and McGee is clearly positioned as the most likely successor. But if he takes on this role, it's not simply a matter of promotion. It's a complete redefinition of his character within the show. First, McGee would have to leave the field. As director, he wouldn't work alongside the MCRT anymore. His responsibilities would shift entirely to strategy, decision-making, and managing the political and operational pressures of the agency. He would no longer be the agent who interviews suspects, chases leads, or solves cases alongside Torres, Bishop, and others. Instead, his presence becomes centralized, affecting the story from a top-down perspective. At the same time, this transition makes sense for McGee's character arc. Over the years, he has grown from a timid, by-the-book junior agent into a seasoned, capable leader. His years in the field have given him a practical understanding of operations, while his behind-the-scenes knowledge of the agency gives him insight few others possess. His experience under Gibbs shaped not only how he approaches investigations, but also how he thinks strategically about people, cases, and agency priorities. Even his work as a writer shows a depth of reflections, illustrating that McGee has always had a broader vision than just handling one case at a time. However, the most profound impact of this move is on the team itself. If McGee becomes director, the MCRT loses one of its most essential members. His absence leaves a gap in both skill and personality. McGee has long been the voice of reason, the problem solver, and the connective tissue between team members. His role in balancing personalities and keeping the team cohesive is not something easily replaced. This means the show will likely have to introduce a new agent, which in turn changes the dynamics, chemistry, and tension within the team. Moreover, McGee as director also alters the narrative scope of NCIS as a series. The show can now explore storylines beyond field investigations, diving deeper into internal agency politics, high-level decision-making, and the complexities of leading a national law enforcement organization. It opens up opportunities for episodes centered on strategic challenges, resource allocation, and even the ethical dilemmas that come with wielding authority. Importantly, this evolution may be essential for McGee's continued growth. After spending decades in the same role, remaining in the field could risk stagnation, making his character feel static or predictable. Becoming director introduces new challenges, tests his judgment under pressure, and allows the audience to see him operate in a broader, more complex environment. It transforms him from a supporting field agent into a central figure whose decisions shape the agency itself. But with that growth comes a price. Fans who have followed McGee's journey for over 20 seasons will feel the absence keenly. The team loses not only a skilled agent, but a friend, mentor, and moral anchor. Torres, Bishop, and even long-standing characters like Ducky or Palmer will have to adapt to a new dynamic, and the chemistry that viewers have cherished will inevitably shift. This trade-off is a bold storytelling decision, but it's one that can breathe new life into the series if handled thoughtfully. Ultimately, McGee becoming director is about far more than replacing Vance. It's about the structural evolution of the show, the transformation of team dynamics, and the natural progression of his character. It raises important questions. Can NCIS maintain its sense of cohesion without him in the field? How will new leadership alter the way cases are handled? And most importantly, is the potential growth and complexity worth losing McGee as an on-screen presence alongside the team? The answer, of course, lies in execution. The writers have carefully planted the seeds for this transition over multiple seasons. McGee's intelligence, empathy, and experience make him an ideal candidate for leadership, while his reluctance and humility create narrative tension. This isn't a leap. It's a carefully planned evolution that reflects real-world challenges of succession, responsibility, and the personal cost of leadership. There's also an emotional layer to consider. McGee has been molded by Gibbs, Vance, and the team over decades. His journey from a nervous field agent to a capable leader mirrors the growth of the series itself.